Now let's welcome in today's roundtable. Joining us, Democratic strategist Franco Ripple and Republican strategist Bradley Blakeman. He's also a former senior staff advisor to President George W. Bush. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Great to be here.
All right, first question to you, Bradley. This idea of a brokered convention, I left, work on last Wednesday thinking maybe this could happen. I came back to work on this morning thinking this very well may happen because it doesn't look like there's a clear path to the 1237 that Donald Trump needs. Do you buy into this theory that there is going to be chaos and rioting if Donald Trump, let's say he gets 1,100 and something delegates or close to 1,200, if he gets that far but doesn't get the needed delegates and is not the GOP's nominee, are we really going to see pitchforks and rioting as some people predict?
Well, look, this makes great copy. This makes interesting conversation, but we'll know in a week's time. A week from tomorrow is going to be the next big Super Tuesday where we have Ohio and Florida. We have a U.S. Senator of Florida, and we have the governor of Ohio in two battleground must-win states. If Marco can't win Florida, he's out. If Kasich can't win Ohio, he's out. And those delegates are freed up because it's winner take all. And it's more likely than not, if they don't win their own states, that Donald Trump has got a pathway to getting to 1237. And it'll be a mano-a-mano race between Cruz and Trump. But Trump would at that point have tremendous momentum. So I'm not in favor of a brokered convention. I don't think it's going to happen. But in a week's time, we're going to know for sure where this thing is going.
Franco, you know Florida very well. You're a Democratic strategist, but you can talk about Marco Rubio. You've seen him work against Charlie Crist in that 2010 Senate race. Is this the same kind of guy that can shock people in a way that he did against Charlie Crist in that campaign and actually come from behind and win the GOP primary in Florida?
No, I know Marco Rubio is trying to make that case this week that he's the guy who can come from behind and shock the establishment. But Marco Rubio, unfortunately for him, doesn't have the juice to do it to do that to Donald Trump. Essentially, looking at an analysis by my colleague Kevin Cate, Marco Rubio would essentially, with the amount of early voting that's taken place in this state already, the number of people who have already voted, Marco Rubio would essentially have to win like every vote from here on out to be able to beat Donald Trump based on, again, the percent of people who have already voted, but also his polling averages. And yes, I know over the weekend there was one poll that showed Marco within 5 points, 35 to 30 of Donald Trump. But the reality is that that's I think outlier poll, and he doesn't have the juice to be able to get there.
Those candidates, especially guys in Marco Rubio's shoes, love those outlier polls when they show something
positive.
I
mean, a lot of people, though, were arguing what Franco's just saying, that there is no pathway to the nomination for Marco Rubio, even if he does win Florida, which right now it's looking like he's not going to. So, Blake, let me ask you, if he doesn't win Florida, and even if he did, give me the two case scenarios. If he wins, I still don't see a pathway there. If he doesn't win, how damaging is this for him?
Well, if he doesn't win his home state, he certainly has to leave the race. That we're certain. We also know he's not up for re-election in Florida because you can't run for president and run for U.S. Senate. So my opinion is if he does lose, he'll be very successful as a businessman, and nobody's going to hold any benefits for Marco Rubio. He's going to do just fine. Of course, he will not be president, but life goes on for those of us who never will. Now, if he were to win Florida and Kasich were to win Ohio, then he becomes a blocker. It's not an offensive game, it's a defensive game to keep Trump from winning the nomination. And there you would have maybe the perfect storm for a convention-decided nominee. But at this point, I think if Marco and Kasich were to win their respective states, they become blockers. And hopefully at the convention, they could make their case if it goes beyond a first ballot.
And guys, with Brad's comments in mind, let's put this in perspective for one moment, okay? It's been nearly 70 years since a Republican convention has been open or brokered or whatever you want to call it, essentially where the person wasn't decided on the first ballot. For the fact that Reince Priebus said very recently, the last couple of days, he gives it a 15% chance that there's not a nominee on the first ballot. That just shows how absolutely fractured beyond disrepair the GOP is this year, and it could end up truly splitting the party into more than two factions.
Yeah, I see Reince Priebus having a lot of nightmares, and it's either Donald Trump as a nominee, because I'm surely not the guy that Reince Priebus had in mind when they came up with the 2016 calendar, or it's not Donald Trump and they have this brokered convention and there is a lot of discourse and anger in the GOP. Either way, it's not good for Reince Priebus. Gentlemen, a lot more to talk about. We're going to talk about Democrats play Franco's home team game.
Home team game,
Yeah.
something like that.
It's
Just when you say Democrat and he, has to say that, it just kind of throws him off his game, right? Yeah, we're going to be talking. We've been talking about the right. We're going to talk about the left. What the future holds for them and what their attacks or lack thereof. Well, could that reveal something about the future? We also want to remind all of you watching to stay tuned to Newsmax TV tomorrow night. We're going to bring you live results from the March 8th primaries. Plus, we're going to have plenty of commentary from all your favorite pollsters and analysts. You don't want to miss that. That's coming up tomorrow night, beginning at 6 o'clock Eastern Time. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Newsmax Now. We promised you we're going to talk about the Democratic primary. A lot happening over this past week. And Hillary Clinton won Louisiana and picked up 37 delegates. Bernie Sanders won Kansas. The caucus is there, getting 23 delegates. And Nebraska picking up 15 in the Cornhusker State. He also won Maine yesterday and 15 delegates that live in Maine. Things also got testy during the CNN debate last night. In case you missed it, Clinton and Sanders sparred over Sanders' opposition to the auto bailout. This was in Flint, Michigan, after all. And while Sanders again portrayed Hillary Clinton all too cozy with Wall Street.
I voted to save the auto industry. He voted against the money that ended up saving the auto industry. I think that is a pretty big difference.
Well, if you are talking about the Wall Street bailout, where some of your friends destroyed this economy. Excuse me, I'm talking.
Let him sprung.
If you're going to talk, tell the whole story, Senator
Let
Sanders.
me tell my story, you tell yours.
I will.
One more topic, though, was more or less absent from the debate last night. Hillary's email troubles, and that is a great place to bring in our roundtable.
Joining us, Franco Ripple and Brad Blakeman. Thank you, gentlemen, for sticking around. You've been theorizing about this for weeks.
Well, I'm just going to throw this out there
Go ahead.
Franco. Bernie Sanders said he won't go there when it comes to the emails, and we all respect him for that position, I guess. But a couple things here. Either he believes there's nothing there to see, and that despite all of the evidence that's been dripping out consistently, there's no there, or he knows there is something else there, and he knows he can't beat Hillary Clinton, so he doesn't want to go there and telegraph a Republican play that they may use down the line. Franco, am I completely out of my mind here?
Well, I think the reality is starting to shape up for Bernie Sanders. He realizes that, much like with Marco Rubio here in Florida, the math isn't there for him to beat Donald Trump. I think Bernie Sanders realizes the math isn't there. It's just not there for him to beat Hillary Clinton in this nomination contest. So, is he holding any punches to not damage who he knows is going to be the nominee? No, I don't think that's the case, because I think he's running a stronger campaign than he ever thought that he would. He's incited a lot of interest among Democratic primary voters. So, no, I don't think it's that. I think it's exactly what he said. I know this has been a crazy primary campaign with people saying all kinds of things, but gosh darn it, I think for once someone said what they actually believed, which is this doesn't matter to the American people. It doesn't matter to especially Democratic primary voters who want to know, how are you going to help send my kid to college? How are you going to help me find a good job? How are you going to help me afford health care for my family?
Those are all things that voters are concerned about. And when he first made that statement about enough about your damn emails, I think we were in a little different situation than we're in today. Brad, do you think there's any way possible that Bernie Sanders may be withholding attacks on Hillary Clinton because, like Franco said, he knows he can't necessarily beat Hillary Clinton, but he doesn't want to talk about what he really knows and what he really may know?
Well, look, Bernie should know that it's more likely than not that Hillary will win the FBI caucus. And that will be the most important caucus, because where the American people may not have the information, the FBI does. And what Bernie has to realize as well by now, he certainly must realize, the fix was in for Hillary. It's not going to work in her favor, because things are going to be beyond her control. And Democrats have superdelegates that can outweigh the people of the rank and file, Democrats who go out and vote. So it ain't going to be Bernie, even if it's not Hillary, because Democrats will not have a socialist party, and they'll have to pick somebody else. It was never going to be Bernie. But Hillary needed Bernie because he was the token opposition to make it look like she's earning the nomination when the fix was in all along.
You know, I find this especially ironic as we sit here talking about a GOP broker convention.
I was going to say, we could have two broker conventions, Franco. It would be amazing.
It's going to be, you know, who is the GOP? Largely older white men sitting in a filled back room deciding that Mitt Romney is going to be their 2016 nominee. You know, if that's the case, look, there is no fix on the Democratic side. Super delegates, they're elected representatives of the people who have a voice just like everybody else, and that voice will be heard alongside the people who make popular voting.
Just for the record, though, I think the arena in Cleveland is. I don't know about grads.
Because again, I was really troubled by that. Like, I want to go back to what Franco was saying.
We got to run down. We're out of time, unfortunately.
Are we completely out of time? We're completely out of time. All right. Well, Brad, and thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Pleasure to have you. We got to run. All right, let's take a look at the best jokes from the late night comedians in our next segment, headlines and punchlines.
On Friday, Ben Carson formally ended the presidential campaign. Said Carson, my what now? With Carson dropping out, this was not a good week for black guys who may have stabbed people.
Did you guys hear about this? A new report claims that a knife was found buried at O.J. Simpson's estate. They're now analyzing the knife for evidence, but experts warn that it might not be related to the crime. You know, because it could be one of those regular knives people bury in the backyard.
Bernie Sanders raised over $40 million from donors this month. Sanders' campaign is now
Coming, we take a look back on the life and legacy of former First Lady